Hi guys. Finally, our editing skills of the week, and they're actually two separate things, but they both begin with the same letters, so that made me put them together on the same page, and they have to do with time. And oh, time to sneeze apparently. Okay, foreshadowing for the reader, for my experience, is when I'm reading page 1 and I get a little clue of something that's going to be important later, and then later it's important. So as I read page 1, there was sort of a glance forward. And as you are writing, that doesn't always happen. You don't necessarily know what's going to be on page 4 that I need a little clue about. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. And you guys know how insistent I am about not writing introductions till the end because you don't know what you're introducing. It's the same with foreshadowing. You might have an idea what you're foreshadowing, but please, in your editing phase, look at your climactic scene or your academic conclusion and make sure at that point that all your foreshadows are in place. This is the end of a paper that I wrote for a course on fantasy novels. Okay, so here's me editing. I see 50 years ago, this would have been that. Okay, so I must make sure that at some point I talk about the previous state of the art 50 years ago. Okay, I have to make sure that I've introduced this character, obviously, and what made her a sad statistic, if you're wondering. She dies in the book. And I should talk about Harry Dresden's Great Battle. I got to make sure that all of those are somewhere previous in my paper. And then apparently I contrast with modern times. I've got to make sure that I talked about her choice and that it was unique. I've got to talk about honor. I've got to talk about heroism and through the fantasy writers of the last generation. So clearly I'm writing something about the change in the last generation. I have to make sure that I wrote about the last generation, and then I reach my stunning conclusion. I have to go back into my paper. If I suddenly say Merle is the soul of honor, without letting you guys know, my readers know what I mean by honor, I'm in trouble. And if I'm reading your paper and you say, uh, therefore we should protect the bees, and your whole paper was about protecting the bees, and then you say, also we should protect polar bears, but you've never mentioned polar bears, grr, I'm going to pull points off. Your conclusion needs to be the conclusion of your paper. Even if you simply put it, this is a good thing to put in an introduction. If you want to say that protecting bees and polar bears are equivalent in your conclusion, you could say in your introduction, there are important things to protect, including bees and polar bears. Now we're going to focus on the bees. Then you can mention polar bears again in your conclusion, but not if not. This is why it's an editing thing. I'm going to look at the end, make sure everything has been foreshadowed that I talk about in my wrap up. Okay. Then there's flashing back. Here I am in a story. I'm writing a story. You're not going to use flashbacks as much in factual papers like a literary critique because you want to go in a nice logical order. But in fiction, flashing back is fun. So here I am. I'm editing. I read In Sight of the Crows, he strengthened his resolve. And I know what I meant. but you don't know what I meant. What do crows have to do with him strengthening his resolve? And I say to myself, oh, I need to fill in about this guy's history with crows. So I will go back and say something like, a flock of crows cried out from the old maple tree. The memories came flooding back. Then I'm going to write about the importance of crows in this guy's history, so that when you read In Sight of the Crows, then, or therefore, or obviously, he strengthened his resolve. That is your writing practice for tonight. You don't have to hand it in, but I'd like you to try filling in. A flock of crows cried out from the old maple tree. The memories came flooding back. I want you to come up with some memories that would make this make sense. Does he love crows? Does he hate crows? Do crows, I don't know, remind him of his third grade math workbook? I have no idea. Counting crows. That's your exercise for tonight, so that when you're writing a story, you are used to using flashbacks to fill in stuff that came before the story began. Okay? Thank you so much.